how my old master just like skip these two commits. They don't, like, I'm ahead, but I don't have this. So remember here we have this testing on the tutorial. If I go to my folder and I open the README, I don't see that because it doesn't exist in my project right now. I diverge from the master branch and I no longer have it under my control. This is very powerful, and you will like to use it when you are doing, for example, some testing. Like, okay, we are gonna try a new like control mechanics in our game. We wanna completely change how we were using it, but we wanna test it out first. So you can go ahead and create a branch and like change everything. Maybe you just like completely break your game, but you are safe because like your original work is on the master branch and is completely safe from any harm. So that's why it's so powerful. Also, it's good because you can have multiple kind of versions of your project divided by branches. So let's say, for example, we are making this game for mobile, but we are also making it for PC or for like a web version, like as we were doing it. Those two versions will most likely look quite different, right? Because in the mobile we will need some sort of controllers, like some buttons, some UI, to be able to move. But in the web version or like the PC version, we don't need those because we have the keyboard. Um, so those differences will need to kind of exist in the game, while all the other like core mechanics exist, because the player will move the same, he will kill the same. It's not like because it's now mobile, my player will do more damage or anything. So having branches, you can have one branch which is called mobile, for example, and you can keep it up to date to the master, but you will have different controls for your game in there. So that's one of the examples where you can use branches. They are pretty powerful. Um, so yeah, that's branches. Let's, for example, now go ahead and do merge. Um, so what I want to do now is I want to merge whatever was on master with my old master branch. Why is that? Is maybe on the example that I was mentioning before. We have our new branch. We were trying just a new mechanic, and we changed a bunch of things while our team was working on other stuff. Let's say, for example, our team was working on the game design, so they keep updating the scenes and the levels and everything. But we were implementing a new mechanic on the player and the enemies. We were not sure if that chain was gonna go into the final product. That's why we made a branch. At the end, once we tested, it was amazing, and we decided we wanna merge into our core project. So in that way, what we will do is that we wanna merge master into the all master. In that way, we will keep all the changes here. You see, all those changes that I made on master now are reflected into my all master branch. So what I did was basically drag it and drop it in here, and I did merge. Of course, this is using GitKraken. Yes, I know. If you use it on the command line, there's a command to merge. You need to say which branches you want to merge, and you use the command to merge. Or if you use a different user interface, you will have to use like different like hotkeys and things. But here in GitKraken, you just have to drag and drop, and you will be able to merge those two branches. So if we go here, we see those changes that were on the master branch now reflected in our project, which is great. we have our project like this. Now, for example, one thing to notice is pretty important is we merged the all like the master into the all master, meaning that the changes that existed on the master now exist on our all master branch, but is not like sideways, like to the two ways around. The changes that we made on the old master, having this guy here, the change that I did on the player controller, doesn't exist on master. That's why those two branches still look like they don't exist together, or like those changes doesn't exist in master. Uh, so when you merge, you are just putting basically the changes from one branch to the other one, but it's not that both are gonna stay the same. So in the case that I wanted to have all my changes that I made on the old branch go back into the master, I will have to do the other way merge. I just want to show you guys here the test file that we mentioned before. I'm gonna move it into the assets folder. So just to show you the blue icon that I told you when you moved it. And now I'm going to go ahead and delete that file so I can show you the red icon that I was mentioning. So what it's mentioning is you have deleted this file. And I'm gonna go ahead because the red also applies for the red only applies for deleting objects, like when you completely delete something. But as you can see here, there is a red line. That means I deleted that line. So if, for example, I go here and I say I don't want this variable anymore, I didn't use it, I'm just doing some cleanup in my code, and I go into Git again, you will see the change appear there, right? And my player controller will show a red line saying that I deleted that line. So we can go ahead and commit those changes or whatever. This is just like cleaning up repo. And we have here our branch. In this case, like if the master, like if the old master would exist in somewhere else, we will be able to like push it into the repo. But because it doesn't exist, it's only like local. You can see here it's only on my local. There's not much sense on pushing it, unless I create the branch. So why don't we just go ahead and do that task? So I'm gonna hit push. It's gonna tell me like, hey, in the origin, like on the remote, there's no all master. So where do you wanna push it to? So I can just leave it like this, or I can change the name. Like my local branch could have a different name than the remote branch. I won't recommend doing this. Like keep it always the same name, because then you will have some troubles remembering. So I will hit submit, and GitKraken will automatically generate a new branch that now exists on GitHub. So if we go back to GitHub here, before I hit refresh, I hope I can see it from here. No, unfortunately. Well, here, yeah, you see. Well, it already refreshed, but before it would have been only master. Now we have our all master. So what I want to do now is we have these changes, right? And I'm gonna basically try to fake a merge conflict for you guys to see what I'm talking about. So I will go here and I'm going to just quickly create down here public void test. This is just a class for testing here. This is just a test for merge conflicts. right? So I just created this line. It's just for testing. And I'm gonna go ahead and commit this change. I can see here, oh yeah, I did that. So I commit, and I'm gonna say adding the, sorry, add test function with a string message, right? And I'm gonna commit this, and I'm gonna go ahead and push this to my remote repository. So if I go here and I go to my code and I go to assets, scripts, and I go to player controller, you will be able to see down here. Oh, sorry, I didn't refresh. Oh, sorry, I need to switch to the all master branch. So yeah, remember we are working on the all master, not in the master branch. So as you can see, on the master branch, there was no changes because I'm not changing anything on the master branch. I'm doing it directly on the other one. So you see here my test. So what I'm gonna do is let's say this interface is like another developer. So I'm gonna go ahead and go here, and I'm going to say I like conflicts. Let's do it. Right? So add more message into the test string variable. This will create a merge conflict in the old master branch. So I will commit this, and I'm going here. So this is an example where it took a little bit of time to appear. If it wouldn't appear for a while, I will have to go and fetch and see here. Sometimes it doesn't appear, and that's when most of the time like developers will have merge conflicts because they don't know what the other developer is working on, because that happens. Like sometimes people doesn't have like communication, and you will end up doing working on the same thing at the same time. For example, one rule of thumb that I will give you guys is when you're working on Unity, we will cover this more next lesson, but there's scenes or like levels, like the one we saw here. There's level 1. I will encourage you guys to don't work in the same level as the other developers are doing. It's just because levels, like the scenes, are a little bit harder to keep track of the changes. It's not that it's impossible, like you can get it, but if you are a beginner and you're starting right now with your team, try to just work on different scenes so you don't have these merge conflicts that will probably screw up a lot your scene. And trust me, like if you have been working a lot of time and putting a lot of effort into your scene, like your level, and someone did like some minor changes, but Git doesn't like it, and it will completely destroy your scene. So make sure you don't do that. Okay, so I have this change here. So before I do anything, like my local branch doesn't have that change, but I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna say I don't like merge conflicts because I don't like them. They are sometimes hard to deal with. So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna see if this. So when you are committing, you will often try to see, oh, another developer did a change on the player controller. Oh, they added something into this line, and I'm going to add the same into the same line. Okay, so I can prevent that change from like that problem from happening before going into the merge conflict. And I really like encourage you again that is way better for you to like acknowledge it before, like say, oh, I added this and he added this. You can just go and talk to them. Oh, okay, why did you add it like that? Oh, okay, we know which one is the final one. There's two ways you can do to prevent the merge, like the merge conflict. The first one will be terrible, I will say, is you have to remove all your changes basically. Just remember what you did, and then you can pull and then redo your changes. This is the worst way to do it, I will say, but sometimes people will do it. You need to go into like a common agreement, like to know which one will be the one, because sometimes it's not a conflict. Like it's a conflict for Git because it's two people committing the same line. So let's go ahead and try it. Changing the string message on the test function on player controller. So I'm gonna commit, I'm gonna pull, and you'll see pull fail, merge fail. There has been merge conflict that need to be resolved. So here is showing me we had a trouble. There something went wrong. You can either abort the merge to go back, because what Git is trying to do is trying to merge your files. And maybe you are committing more than one file. And those files, some of them can go through without any trouble. Like maybe you are committing a lot of them. That's why I also encourage you guys to commit fewer changes. Like if you commit fewer, you will have less merge conflicts. But let's say you push a lot, some of them pass, no problem, but a couple of files are broken. So Git will merge all of them, and Git also will try to merge as much as it can. Sometimes you can even have two changes in the same script, but Git is able to like merge it if there's no conflict. For example, you were changing something on the top and someone added something in the bottom, so it's completely separated. So it won't, like, it will be easy for Git to just, okay, I'm gonna change at the top and I'm gonna add the bottom line. But when you are dealing with something like this, because you change exactly the same line, he will tell you like, oh, look, there's a conflict here. So you can see, oh, there's a conflict. If you abort, it will just go back. So let's try to abort first. Like, oh, no, sorry. I know I did something wrong. I'm gonna just remove my changes or whatever. But maybe you just, no, but like everything is all right. So you will do it again. It will tell you again, hey, I keep finding a problem with your code. When you do it on the command line, you will have to basically go into your script and check what is going on. Git is pretty good with that as well, because it will add some special characters into your code. I'm not gonna go into it right now because that will be a little bit more specific and complex, and we are using a UI, a user interface tool, which will help us a lot. But here, if we just click this little file, he will bring us a merge conflict tool, basically, like the internal from GitKraken. There are other tools, and that's why here it says like I want to open in an external merge tool, because sometimes it's a different type of file, and you won't be able to see it through Git. So it's hard to forget through GitKraken, sorry. So it won't be able to give you this. But here you will see, oh, okay, so I, Gabriel, in my local branch, did this change. I added the conflict. I don't like merge conflicts. And I, Gabriel, let's say another developer, in the origin, so this is on the remote branch, right? This is on the server from GitHub. They did a change that says, I like the conflicts, let's do it. GitKraken is telling me this line, there's something wrong. I could do this. This is my result. Like, I will leave it just as it was before. I will just remove both of you guys. or you can decide and take yours and it will add mine, or I can take both and it will add two lines. This will result in a conflict for code. So remember, Git is not checking uh, either if my code is running or not. Git is just checking for the controlling of the history of my code. But like for example here, if I keep both changes, I will have two strings with the same variable name, which will end up in an error. But Git doesn't care about that. Like Git is only trying to figure out what to do with those two changes. So I will keep this one, for example, and I say, yeah, I like that. This is how we should do it. This was a previous change that someone did, but we don't really need it anymore, for example, and I can hit save. Once I hit save, it will say, hey, perfect. Once you did that change, all the other files were committed successfully, and we did the merge. The merge has been successfully done, and here you will have again this. I didn't hit correctly. Here. Sorry, it's. Oh, I need to. For some reason, this should just keep this one. Yeah, I'm saving it like this. And I'm going to put it here. So I'm just gonna make sure. You see, this is what I was telling you. Okay, so right here, this is one of the things. It's actually pretty good that just showed up, um, because sometimes the user interface tools have some trouble. This is an example of one of them. Like in what it normally should be doing is if I'm gonna just show it again. When I go here and I open this file and I select my change, sorry, I'm gonna open here a little bit more. Yeah. And I hit save, it should save it, but it should keep it as a new commit because it's not doing it. It's like, oh, I'm not making your change. So that's kind of a bug on the tool right now. It's probably one of the latest changes. So it's having that trouble. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and mark it as a result. I know what's the problem because it already showed me, and I can just go here into code. And this is what I was telling you, that Git, when you don't have user interface tool, Git is still giving you the hints of what's the problem, what's the merge conflict. So here is showing me that what are the changes. Like here is showing me here in your head. Head means my local branch. In my local branch, I have this string, but it's conflicting with the same string in the old branch, remote repository. So I gotta make sure to say, okay, I just wanna get rid of this line. I don't want it anymore, right? So we just go on ahead and remove it. But I also have to remove those like warnings, because those are just from Git that Git adds them into the code for you to know where to change. So I will go ahead and save my code. I will go here. I will have to stage this, and it's not saving it for some reason. Um, yeah, I will just commit this for now and go ahead and do that change again. So I just have to remove this and remove this. Save and make that change so we don't have those errors. So this is merge fix from same line editing. I now, if I pull, it doesn't tell me that I have anything else to worry about. Everything is up to date, and I can push those changes to the server. And if I go into our nice GitHub um, and I refresh, I will be able to see that my change was successful, and I don't like the merge conflicts. That's why I say I don't like the merge conflicts. Um, so the ideal is to avoid as much as you can the merge conflicts. Like, try to do that as much as you can, because that will start creating these kind of like branchings and troubles. One excellent way to do it is before you start committing your changes, check out what they change. So I'm gonna do like a way on how you should do it properly. And GitKraken has a tool to help you do that before getting to the merge conflict, because the merge conflict is something like not like, it's not nice. Try to avoid it as much as you can. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go edit it again, right? And I'm going to say, but I don't, but I really like them. This was the guy that liked them. Adding again more message to the string on test. This will generate a merge conflict if not deal properly. And we know we want to avoid that as all cost. So we go ahead and commit that. We have our change. We go here. We don't see it. We will go and go fetch. And we have now our change. So we have now that line there. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change it as well. Please avoid merge conflicts at all cost. Go ahead and save it. And I'm going here, and what I'm seeing is, oh, I changed this, but someone changed exactly the same line. Oh no, so I know this is gonna make a merge conflict. Um, so what can I do? Like, oh no, I don't wanna lose my changes, right? Because I know my changes are the ones that needs to remain at the end. Because this one is probably something all like this guy added it, but then we had a discussion as a team and we decided no, we are gonna go with the new changes, but I didn't pull before I started doing the changes, and that's something that happens very often, you will see. So one way to avoid this is I'm gonna use this night button that is called stash. What it does is basically will save those changes, uh, but it won't show in my local. So I'm able to pull other changes, change my code, but I still have all those changes saved somewhere. So let's go ahead and I hit stage. So I can see here work in progress on the all master, that's WIP, and I see here my stages on the all master, right? Um, so if we go ahead here, it will ask me, yeah, you need to change, and my changes are gone. So I'm back to normal. I didn't do any changes.